Chapter 14 Impulsivities Part 1. Okay, James knew it was a bad idea. He knew it the moment he said it. Actually, he knew it before the words even left his mouth. But he couldn't help himself. She just made him so mad, a type of anger that James didn't even know he was capable of. It was supposed to be a good night. He was going to have a good time. And they won 3 of 3 awards. This was supposed to be their nights. They were supposed to feel good about it. And James could only think about how angry he was. He tried pushing it away, smothering the anger and letting himself be happy like he normally was. It wasn't working. So, yeah, he might have called her out in front of the entire world. But he never used her name. Nobody even knew they dated in secondary school. They were waiting backstage for Mary. James felt like a child again. He knew he messed up. He went off script. They were probably never going to let him speak again now. James really had written maniac about Alecto. For a long time, Jay thought it was his fault. He thought that he deserved everything she did to him because he wouldn't sleep with her. It couldn't have felt good knowing your boyfriend wasn't interested in having sex with you, especially because of the reputation men got for always wanting sex. So James blamed himself. But it wasn't like there was anything he could do. He didn't want to sleep with her, and he couldn't even pretend he did. He knew there was something wrong with him because of it, but he didn't know what to do. Still, he eventually realized that it wasn't all his fault. Alecto was equally wrong in their relationship. She cheated on him, something James didn't learn until closer to the end of everything that happened between them. She would call him names to her friends, and she started spreading rumors about him. James was popular in school, he was, but rumors affect everyone. And if the girl dating the most popular guy in school say he can get it up, then that sticks. Plenty of people thought he was gay, which he supposes he is, although he didn't know that in secondary. Then, just suddenly, she moved schools and everyone forgot about it. Everyone except for James, at least. He's pretty sure he's never been in a worse state than in his 6th year. Bronx? Sirius said, snapping him out of his trance. James was sitting on the ground at this point, trying to comfort himself. Had he really said that? Live? Sirius sat down next to him, resting his head on his shoulder. Peter did the same thing on the other side. He didn't know where Remus was, but he was too out of it to really care. But that was kind of stupid, you know? James managed a small laugh. Yeah, I know. Bitch deserved it, though, Peter said. James gave him a small look. He didn't like when his friends talked negatively about her, even if she did deserve it. She was still a person, just as complex as the rest of them. Of course, her complexities felt a bit more evil than any others, but still, he was always going to try to be the bigger person. Sorry, Sirius sighed. I don't know why you don't just let us deal with it. Because it's fine, James insisted. He could deal with seeing Alecto a couple times a year at events like this. You don't deserve it, Peter told him. Don't I? James had done enough to Alecto to feel a little bit like he did deserve it. This was just the karma he got for being a bad boyfriend. He felt like he got off pretty easily, actually, all things considered. Alecto could have easily chosen to pester him more often than she did. She could have gone public with details of their relationship and possibly ruined James's reputation again. When Remus returned, it was with Ava, Mary, and Regulus. Mary had her arms crossed as she looked at the 3 of them on the ground. People had been walking back and forth the entire time, not paying them much attention. weirder things have happened at award shows. That much was safe to say. James, she said, disappointed. He knew he was only making her job harder, but it wasn't like he did it on purpose. He tried to smile. Maybe he could charm his way out of receiving a lecture? Mary, you realize that was a very bad idea, right? Yeah, but, well, I mean, I'm feeling better now. Isn't that good? He asked. He's lying, Sirius mumbled, probably falling asleep and rolling all over James's shoulder. He wasn't lying. He felt better than he did before. He could manage a real smile. He could even laugh. He did feel bad about what he said, which actually made him feel worse, but as a whole, he was feeling much, much better. Can we go to an after party? No, Peter and Remus chorused at the same time. Sirius lifted his hand in agreement. They were all too tired for an after party, apparently. But James was full of energy still. He wanted to go out and have fun. If he was being honest, he really just wanted to perform again. He wanted to be on a stage with his best mates and his favorite six string. He wanted to feel off the energy of the crowd. It was an addicting feeling James was learning. Having a couple days off was nice, yes, but it was absolutely nothing compared to the rush he felt when he was up there. Nothing even came close. Not drugs, not alcohol. James? He was brought out of his daydream from Regulus, who was looking at him with so much more emotion than James had ever seen him willingly present. His eyes were open and they were full, and they were looking at James. Maybe he had been wrong to think that there was nothing close to the feeling he got when on stage. Because when Regulus looked at him like that and spoke his name in such a soft cadence, James knew he would be fine if he never stepped foot on a stage again. James, he said again. He hadn't realized he kept zoning out, getting lost in his thoughts. His friends were probably worried he was putting too much thought into Alecto, but he stopped putting merit into the words she said years ago. "Hmm, sorry, what?" he asked, blinking a couple times to clear his mind. It felt foggier than it normally did. Regulus shook his head, and James saw him put the stone wall back up. Nothing, you were just staring. Was I? He genuinely had not known that, although it wasn't exactly improbable. Regulus was a very pleasant person to stare at. He couldn't help if his subconscious eye just wanted to see as much of him as possible before he left. James had barely thought about that, actually, that Regulus was leaving. His cast was off, Sirius was noticeably less worried about his well being, and he was miserable on the tour with them. There were times where James could pretend that Regulus was having fun, when he saw him laughing with Barty and Evan, when they were at the beach and he was chatting with Marlene, even at shows when he was just standing in the wings. But he hated the tour bus, and living one day at a time was probably not how Regulus preferred to structure his time. He was a ballet dancer. Structure was his motto. Yeah, you were. Sorry, he said with a smile, not apologetic in the slightest. Regulus rolled his eyes, leaning against the opposite wall and looking up. Hmm, whatever, James. It made him smile even more. Something about the way Regulus said his name was different, like nothing he had ever heard before. He accentuated them. He almost completely disregarded the S, adding it to the end as though it were an afterthought. James. It was sweet, honey to his ears, dripping on the harshest part of his brain and soothing them. You need to issue an apology. James looked at Mary, his smile dropping. For what? Mate, you called her a maniac on live television, Peter said, nuzzling his head a bit deeper into James's shoulder. He was probably about to fall asleep too. I didn't address her by name, he pointed out. He might have been angry, but he wasn't stupid enough to actually call her out. He made a statement that only the people closest to him would really be able to decode. There wasn't anybody for him to apologize to. If you don't apologize, there is a high possibility she's going to retaliate, Mary told him. Mary knew about Alecta. She'd even met her before, so her saying this wasn't out of left field or even an educated guess. Alecta would say something negative about him, whether it be indirectly or not. You shouldn't have to, Sirius said, sitting up now. Pats, it's fine. I made a mistake. No, you didn't. Serious? Mary said, her tone a bit clipped. She was stressed. James felt a bit sick to his stomach knowing that he caused some of it. With the riot he basically caused about coming out, and now with this. He never meant to make anybody's job harder. He just wanted to be able to be himself. In fame, he isn't afforded that luxury. Really, nobody is. It's all about making money, and the best way to do that is to be genuine. I'm sorry, Mary, I am. But James will not be apologizing to her, Sirius said. James kept his mouth shut. He didn't know what to do anymore. What if I talk to her? He suggested. Not happening, Remus said almost immediately. But I could explain to her. Bronx, no. You don't. She doesn't deserve an explanation, Sirius said. James heard the distinct sound of footsteps walking away, and when he looked up, he was surprised to see it was Regulus leaving without a word. James scared him off, most likely. Admittedly, James probably had a little bit too much to drink. He was practically bouncing around the hotel room, trying to catch Sirius up on everything that happened while he was gone, which ended up being a lot more than he thought. There were the interviews, which could have gone much, much worse. Granted, they also could have gone a lot better, but hardly anybody was blaming Remus for any of it. There were all of the meetings with Mary and their management in general, and that was when James finally remembered the most important part. Oh, yeah, he said, turning back around to look at Sirius. James was pacing about and he was just sitting on the bed with a guitar. So maybe James just sort of barged in while Sirius was trying to get out some creative energy, but he could feel bad about it later. For now, he was drunk. I forgot to tell you. Tell me what? James smiled. I want to come out. Sirius looked up a bit confused. Bronx, I know you're gay. To the world, Pats. I want the whole world to know, James clarified. He was still so excited about it. He would need to formulate a plan or a good way to get it out to everybody. He supposed he could post on Instagram, but that didn't feel official enough. No, you don't, James frowned. What? Yes, I do. He wasn't sure about much these days, but he knew he wanted to come out and let the world know that it was okay to love who they love. There weren't nearly enough people spreading that message. Sirius shook his head, putting his guitar to the side. It isn't that simple. It is. James. I don't care about the backlash. Sirius shut his mouth tightly for a moment, blowing out a deep puff of air through his nose and trying to take deep breaths. James wasn't relenting, though. Who cares what people say? He surely didn't. Bronx. You say that now, but I mean you don't know what it will be like. Neither do you. Nobody knew what the response would be like for any of them, but that was part of the risk. He didn't want to hide forever out of fear, and he knew Sirius didn't either. They weren't the type to back off of something because of the possible repercussions. And James knew that everything Sirius was saying was coming straight from Mary. She supported them, yes, but she was also just trying to make money at the end of the day. Sirius mulled it over, but there was still so much more for him to think about. I also think we should drop Slytherin records, James announced, saying it out loud for the first time. It sounded right to him. It sounded like exactly what they needed to do. He wouldn't suggest it to Remus and Peter without knowing Sirius was in his corner, though. Together, they would be unstoppable, but that didn't mean it would be easy. We should, Sirius responded almost immediately. Yeah? Prongs. I've been wanting to drop them since we signed, really. But, well, what prompted this? I mean, we've never even talked about it before. We had meetings today, James said. Sirius knew about them. In fact, he was supposed to actually show up for them, but he didn't. He got a pass because his father was dead, and while James knew he did not actually care about Orion, the people at Slytherin Records did not know that. And, well, they were upset with Mooney about what he said in the interview, and they said they would never let you come out, and, well, yeah, that's why. You know what that means, though, right? He nodded. It would be a lot of work. They would have to basically start from the bottom again, find some way to produce their music and perform their songs live. They would have a bit of a head start from the last time at least, but it wasn't going to be easy. Sirius smiled. Okay, then I think we should do it. Regulus did not act on impulse. He thought things out thoroughly before doing anything, no matter how small or big. He had had to learn it, but years in the Black House taught him how to think very carefully before he acted. It was simply second nature now. With that said, Regulus had no excuse for his actions. He did not think, he just did. And thus saying something because of how much forethought he needed to put into it. He needed to call the hotel, he needed to come up with an alias, and then he needed to get there without worrying Sirius. All of which he did without thinking. It was instinct, something deep in the pit of his stomach where he felt the need to defend James. He didn't need to either. He knew that. James would probably be upset with him if he knew what he was up to. But he never had to find out. On top of it all, too, he did research the entire car ride there. Regulus was pretty sure he knew every last detail about Alecto Caro. He knew where she worked, her family, and friends. He could have found her address if he wanted to. Regulus knew, if necessary, exactly how to get revenge if it came to that. First, he planned on having a simple and calm conversation. Regulus knocked on the door twice, loud and hard, and hopefully getting the point across that he was angry. A man opened it. He was disheveled and he looked like he had put pants on just seconds ago, still trying to adjust them. He looked annoyed that Regulus was there interrupting whatever they were doing. Can I help you? I'm looking for Alecto. The man cocked his head to the side, looking Regulus up and down. Really, he did not have the energy for this. They could get back to fucking in literally 5 minutes. Why? Who are you? Her husband, he responded deadpan. His jaw dropped and he looked backward in the room. Get out. If he would have been in a better mood, Regulus would have laughed at how quickly he left. Literally, he practically ran out of the room, not even bothering to go back for his shirt. But He was not in a good mood, so he did not laugh. Instead, he slipped into the room, not surprised to see Alecto sitting in the bed with a sheet wrapped around her. Regulus found a shirt on the ground and tossed it to her, turning around and waiting for her to get dressed. Who are you? She asked. Regulus still heard her shuffling, so he didn't turn around until she gave him the okay. Friend of a friend, he responded, spinning on his heel. Alecto looked at him closely, and he did the same to her. She was probably trying to figure out who he was, and he was trying to find something he could use against her. He was very good at reading people. Always have been. Alecto was no different. She showed almost every single thing she was thinking right on her face. Alecto was a music producer. She didn't have the same types of training that the people in the spotlight did. She didn't know how to hide what she felt or mask her emotions, and Regulus was thankful. It made his part all that much easier. For example, Regulus knew that she thought he was attractive. He also knew this. And then she got annoyed that he barged into her room. Again, he understood. And then the recognition settled in her face, likely remembering how he had stood behind James. Oh, you're a friend of Potter's then? She asked, her voice raising an octave to become close to unbearable. He shrugged. I wouldn't say that. No? What would you say then? Regulus smiled, glad that this was going exactly the way he wanted it to. I'd say the enemy of my enemy is my closest friend. Now she smiled, completely unaware that he was playing her and it was working. Regulus might have hated James, but he hated seeing him upset almost 10 times more. She stuck her hand out for him. Hi, I'm Alecto. I know who you are, he said, refusing to touch her. He sat down on the chair, crossing one leg over the other and getting comfortable. When Regulus said he did research, he meant he thoroughly did research. Alecto was not married, but she did have a very serious boyfriend who surely would not be happy to hear about all of her escapades. Still, she didn't seem to take his crassness as anything other than ordinary, and she sat down on the bed, facing him. She actually started laughing too as she spoke about James. Regulus tightened his fists, being careful not to show anger on his face. Not yet. And I mean, can you believe he's a virgin? He's a grown adult. It's pitiful, she said, still talking. I'm a virgin. Regulus interrupted, completely lying. Of course, he was doing it to prove a point because genuinely who cared? Why was this woman so obsessed with the sex lives of others? Alecto faltered, looking him up and down. No, you're not. Regulus shrugged. I know you're not, he said, half gesturing to the shit that the man left behind. What? How's Colin doing, by the way? Regulus asked, the picture of nonchalance. Colin? You know Colin? Regulus nodded. Intimately. Who are you? Nobody. Not yet, anyway. Alecto frowned, trying to get a reading on him. Yeah, simply not happening. Regulus stood up. He understood how power worked. He knew how to use it to his advantage. He was not ashamed of it. I just want to warn you, really. Warn me? He asked, shrinking back a little bit. It was so minuscule that it would have gone unnoticed, but Regulus was paying very close attention. He gave credit where it was due. She was smarter than she seemed. Regulus nodded. Yes. About what? This time, when he smiled, it was nothing like before. It was dripping in anger and revenge. It was not reassuring and it was not friendly. that if you ever come near James again, I will make sure you live to regret it. Alecto froze, and then she scoffed. Really? She could underestimate him all she wanted. Even better if he actually got to act out his revenge plans actually. Let her think he was joking or that he was harmless. He was being dead serious. Regulus shrugged. I've warned you. That's all I came to do.